Well, my name is Martijn Meima. I'm a business intuition specialist in the Netherlands. So I combine all kind of intuitive modalities on business issues, business questions. I'm a business consultant and a coach is my background. And I started in 2008 to, well, actually 2006 to develop my intuition, do intuitive modalities. And then in 2008, I came across family constellations and business constellations. And that's when I started learning that in 2012, 13, I started teaching others. And I'm really excited about this business constellation modality. And I'm coming to Mumbai in August to teach the yeah, the the craft of facilitating business constellations. And I like to answer questions. Can be about businesses in general, can be about how to apply business constellations, how to facilitate the difference between family and business constellations. So there's all kinds of fields to explore here. So yeah.
Yeah. So I think let's start. In case if somebody joins in, we will be letting them in. And, it's not a webinar or a talk that, they might miss on something. If they just have a question, we can just
Yeah.
let them. Yeah, you're okay. So my first question to you, Martine, is, these are some questions which we receive from the community. What are the systemic dynamics in businesses?
Yeah, I get a question quite often. It's like you have the family system where there are all kinds of dynamics, and what kind of dynamics do you have in the business? Um, well, actually, there are like the three orders of love or the three life-giving forces. They're named differently, and one of them is that systems want to be whole. It's about belonging. It's about including. And a lot of dynamics come from not including. So, for example, we don't include parts of the history of a company that which we didn't like in wars, or maybe there was some death in the past, or maybe there was some corruption, or well, there were some parts of the history we try to erase. And then what happens is that in the here and the now, we will see issues in businesses. We will have maybe a high sick leave, or we will have machines that run smoothly, or we will have more deaths, maybe even. And it's all about acknowledging what happened in the past. Same can happen if we fire a manager or somebody and it was a little bit nasty and we didn't want to talk about it. And it was like, yeah, he leaves, but we don't know why. And then maybe 10 years later, it's like, yeah, there was some guy we don't remember. So it's really put under the carpet. And that's when what we call the system conscious kicks in and say, okay, we need to include this guy. So why don't we have the new manager on the same position? And he will act the same way. He will do the same mistakes as the old one. He will have the same characteristics. So this person might not even recognize what he's doing. It's like, wow, who am I and why am I doing this? Normally this doesn't happen to me, but in this company I cannot do differently. So it's very interesting dynamics that they're like almost like carrying the burden, like in the family constellations. Um, but it's also including what we create in the world. So it's also including what our products and maybe the products of our clients and the products of their clients and their clients, what that brings into the world. So it's not that we sell something and then just say, okay, there's nothing here. No, you sell something, and by selling it, you include that also in your business, and you need to acknowledge that, for example, if you sell metal and it's made into a bullet and it shoots somebody, that the death, but also the protection that it offered, is part of your company. So that's about including. There are more things to include, but that's, and then we have the order of hierarchy, or the order of love, the natural order I call it in businesses, and that's, we have hierarchy. And in family systems, that's very clear. It's the generations, and that's a very clear order. And but in businesses, that's a created order. So it's an order that we made up. We just drew it like, oh, we have these boxes and then you are the boss of that person. But there's other orders which are far more important. And for example, the order of seniority. How long have you been with this company? So the people that have been longer with the company, they have, it's not that they are better, but they come first. They created the space in which the other people could do the work. And there's an order in functions. Well, we'll dive deeper into that when I come to Mumbai or maybe on one of the online modules. But there are different orders in family systems which cause, or in business systems, which cause different dynamics. And then we have giving and taking. And the giving and taking in families, it's like you give to the children and the children give to their children and so on. But in businesses, it needs to be balanced over time. So it's always imbalanced, but it needs to be balanced over time. And one of the dynamics you can have is that clients are not happy, clients start to complain, and it might have to do that the balance of giving and taking is not even. And they can even complain when they get too much because actually they get a burden. They get like they have a debt with you because you give for 1,000 and you ask for 2,000, or no, you give 2,000 and you ask for 1,000. So the complaints of a customer could have to do with that you give too much, or maybe that you give too little, but that's a very logical one. And sometimes when we have theft in companies, or well, maybe also corruption, is like people take more than is for them. It might have to do that back in the past, people gave too much or the company took too much. So it's also good to realize that there's a history, and maybe the system wants to balance the giving and taking by having somebody steal something. So yeah, those are some of the dynamics that I see quite often.
The next question is, what are the systemic dynamics behind marketing?
Yes, marketing. It's a question I get a lot from companies: how to get more clients, how to bring in more money, how to make more money. And there are some systemic dynamics. There are some, it's never about money. So that's good to realize. So when people say, oh, I want to make more money, I said, okay, what do you really want? Do you want to bring something to the world? Do you want to provide for your family? Do you want safety? So sometimes it's more a personal issue and sometimes it's more a business issue. So that's also with business constellations. Sometimes it's really business related, but sometimes, like when I want to make more money because I feel that I have to take care of my family and my parents couldn't take care of me, that might be a family pattern that I'm repeating in my business. So then the systemic dynamic between underneath marketing is that you actually expect your clients to have to take care of your family. So you almost make the clients responsible for being alive and your family being alive, which is too much responsibility for the clients. They just pay you because they get something from you, and then you can provide for whomever you want to provide for. So that you put like a burden on your clients and ask them actually for more than what they can give. I also had that client was very interesting. He said, I want my clients, I need my clients, I need more clients because then I can live my mission in life, because then I can give to the world. So it was a beautiful mission and beautiful intention. But at the same time, when I represented the client, I could feel like, whoa, okay, so if I'm not going to you, then I just I don't make it possible for you to live your mission in life. So it was a very huge responsibility. So it's good to realize, are you really open for clients and the company? Is the company open, or is there like a hidden agenda which you want from the clients? So that's good to realize. And then marketing also has to do with connection. So sometimes I see a dynamic that somebody people are not connected with their company or not connected with the products, or they bought a company and they think the products are not very good, or so it's also about really being able to connect to that, to the energy of your products and services. And then it's also about being visible. It's about being out in the open. And especially for solopreneurs, I see a lot of people that have a very, well, and then mostly it's back to the family system or past lives even, that they have some issues with being open, being seen, being vulnerable, because, yeah, this is what I have to offer. And then people say, no, I don't want it. It's almost like you are personally rejected. So it's also about being visible. Yeah, and then there are quite different dynamics that you can see. So it's not all one dynamic. Yeah, it's just an example, just to show you that how diverse the examples can be. This was a company, it was a plumber who wanted more clients outside his village. He was living in a village in the north of the Netherlands, and he had a lot of clients outside his village. So he had to drive all the way, and he wanted clients within his village. And so we did a constellation where we put some representative for the potential clients in his village and one for his company. So this was not about his personal life. This was really about the company. And then I asked for the representative of the potential clients in his village. What are you sensing? Well, to be honest, I feel there's something with death. I said, death? This is a marketing constellation. How come? But I always trust the process. I trust the field. So I said, okay, so can I ask somebody to represent, to lie on the floor and represent death? And I thought, I don't know what's happening, but everybody could sense there was something happening. So my client, the entrepreneur, the plumber, said, oh, now it's clear to me. I said, okay, fill me in, what's happening here? And he said, in the building where my company is, where I have my company, the previous owner committed suicide there. So this was affecting the local people because they felt it but didn't know it or whatever. So by having this in the open, and I really advise them to have like a picture of this guy or some kind of remembrance, he got more clients from the local community. Yeah. And there was a question, right?
Yeah, I think we'll take the questions in the chat at the end, and if that's okay.
Okay. Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah. So, Martijn, how important is the foundation of a company according to business constellation?
Yeah, the founding of the company. People forget about that, but it's very important. Actually, it's like the birth. So when you are born, it's very important because then your body arrives on earth with the soul and everything. And the same is true for companies. And we tend to forget that. We think it's just like, oh, this is this technical thing, and we have a website and we have like a registration number somewhere, but that's all for taxes. Or no, it's when you found a company, there is this energy injected in it almost. It's like immediately this company gets like a destination and it gets a direction and it gets an origin. So find the foundation, the founding of a company is how do I say? It's almost creating the DNA of the company. So it's also creating what is possible and what is not possible with the company. So for example, here in the Netherlands, we have a company, it's a grocery store, and they were founded because they want to bring food from abroad. And this was like in the 1960s, where we were very focused on the Netherlands, eating our potatoes. They wanted to bring food from all over the world, from India, for example, to the Netherlands and make it easily accessible, so not very special and high priced. And whenever they decide to go away from that mission or that raison d'être, the French say the reason of being, it didn't go well with the company. So But they need to change it because now it's very easy to go to India and get food. So they need to change that. But still, it's a company where you can, yeah, they have new stuff. They have more like, for example, vegan stuff now, and so they are always bringing new things. So as long as you stay true to that founding energy of the company, it will lift you up and it will lift the energy and people up. So you can have much more momentum if you are aligned with that. So yeah, it's very important.
The next question is, what are some of the main causes of not making enough money?
Mm, always, huh? Well, maybe the one thing is that you think it's about money, but it's not. Um, Not making enough money is mostly rooted in the family system of the founders or maybe of the CEO. Especially with solopreneurs and small and medium enterprises, it's really and especially with family businesses, it's often a loyalty to some of the ancestors that weren't successful and couldn't really live their full potential. So that could be one of the causes. Um, but it could also be, yeah, how do I say it? Like a misconception about what money is. Because in essence, money is love. And I always wait a second if I say that because people go, "Oh, money is love." That's not true. But money is love. Money is love for from your customers for you and for what you deliver. So that's why they pay. It's also the balancing of giving and taking, but it's really love. And we project a lot on it. So we project, well, what we learned from our family, from society, what we learned from our religion, maybe. I see a lot of spiritual people that say, oh, money is dirty. I don't want money. I can live from the light. And some people can live from prana or whatever, but many people can't. So you do need money. And some people say, yeah, but money will go away in this world, which probably is true, but it's still there now. So also when you do spiritual work, and I work a lot with, yeah, people that do meaningful work in their life, it's essential that you make money. Because if you don't make money, you have to have a job and then do your spiritual light work in the evening. That doesn't make sense. You need to do what you're meant to do, and you need to work on your talents in your business or in a company that you work for as an employee, which is perfectly okay. But you need to do work with your talents 24/7 and not only like in the evenings or in the weekends. So, and that's what we need money for. So it's also this belief system about money. But then of course, there are systemic dynamics underneath it as well. So one of the things that could happen in businesses is that, well, maybe in the past they took a little bit too much money from local people, or they cheated, or they took away some money. And then in these days, it's more, then the system is going to balance it. So these days it's more difficult to get money. So that could be one of the things, that it's the balance of giving and taking, that you took too much, and now, yeah, they're taking it from you. So it could have to do with the family system of the owners. Um, could have to do with past lives of the owners, where in a past life you made a lot of money, but really destroyed people, for example, or well, something like that. So um, let me see. There's another thing: not making enough money. Yeah, it's also about being aligned with your mission in life, with your purpose. Because if you're not aligned, then you need to work really hard and there's no flow. So also no flow of money. But if you are lifted up by this larger energy, that why you are here on earth and why the company was created, like I said, with the founding energy of the company. And if you're really embracing that and leaning into that, then money can flow to you. Yeah, and one other thing, and we did the process yesterday. Success, so also money, has the eyes of your mother. That's what Bert Hellinger says. So it could also have to do something with your relationship with your mother. So these are also things that we can dive into in the training. We'll explore money. We'll explore success. And the interesting thing, what I always like about these trainings, also when I followed them, first you learn this craft and you learn how to facilitate, but you also learn about a different way of looking at businesses, a different way of seeing how businesses work. And the third thing is that you also are a guinea pig for the others. So guinea pig for the others. So you also get to constellate your own issues. So you also get a lot of answers to your own own business questions. So, yeah. Maybe I would like to do some questions from the.
Satya Priya has raised hand. You can go,
Yeah.
Satya Priya.
Hey Martin.
Hi.
So we discussed about this yesterday also about what's the main difference between this family constellation and business constellation. In that we spoke about the various aspects that are relevant to a business. Right. So those were the elements we bring in a business constellation, and we do the constellation process. Fine. But now during this discussion, you mentioned about the CEO or the founder's family influence in it. So I want to understand what percentage of that family influence is there, and this business oriented influence is there, how to distinguish and all this.
Yeah. Well, the simple answer is don't distinguish.
Okay.
But the more complicated answer is because people come to me often for a business constellation. And when I say, okay, what I think it's about father, mother, and a lost child or whatever, it's not always, well, people for me, they expect it, but it's not always expected. And when I work with a team, I cannot say, okay, this is actually about the father of the founder, so let's look at the father of the founder. And so it also really depends on the contract you have with your client. But I always say, yeah, there are some people that say there is no business or organizational constellations. It's only family constellations. I don't believe that because I also have seen, well, like I said, with this suicide guy, there was a business constellation. There was nothing to do with had nothing to do with the family. I've seen work in teams with constellations, and it had nothing to do with the family. So there are absolutely business or organizational constellations, but often because we are all people and organizations are made up of people. There's a management team that those are people. There are other teams, there are people. There are senior executives, there are people. And all people bring in their family system because the family system is the first system you're born into. And it really influences the way you live, the way you work, the way you create, the way you manifest. So a lot of issues go back to the family system. So when I work with, and that's also what we're going to do in the training, is when you work with businesses, and especially family businesses, because there it's very blurry. There are different ways of separating the business from the family. Or well, I had a client like five owners, and we did a constellation. And what I sometimes do is I hire a representative so that I have the team and I have somebody else. So this person was representing the company, and the five owners were. I said, okay, how do you relate to the company? They wanted a strategy session. They wanted to use a constellation for strategy. And then I said, okay, to the company, what are you experiencing here? How is it for you? And she said, I'm not looking at five adults. I'm looking at five children here. And I thought, okay, so this is not exactly family, but it's very, very personal. So then I said, okay, we can go and look into the strategy if you like. And sometimes constellations you can separate the family and then go into the business direction. Sometimes it just shuts off and there's nothing happens. Or we can follow the information from the constellation and look at your inner child issue. And actually, these people said, yeah, let's do that. So they were very vulnerable, very brave, actually. So we did 5 inner child constellations where everybody was watching the others. So but that's also my style. So I attract people that want that. But you could also say, okay, let's not go into that and let's go into the strategy. But the risk is that this strategy constellation will be a little bit rusty and not working and difficult to move forward. So, so sometimes it's possible to separate, and sometimes you have to say, well, apparently there's something with the family, because it turns out that this client representative says, now I feel that I'm your father. It's like, okay, maybe there's. So I would recommend that you first work on your family, your father issue, and then come back to me and we can work on the business. So that's also a way to separate it. Or what I've done in a team is that there was a leadership issue. And well, I asked some questions, and then the boss or the team leader said, yeah, I know for my family history, I have an issue with authority and with leadership. So I said, okay, take a representative, some floor marker from the room that is representing your family issue with leadership. So he put it next to himself. So we didn't go into it, but it was just present. And then I said, who else has an issue with leadership from his family? Oh yeah, me. So they were all getting representatives for the family shit that was influencing their leadership. And then they could see, oh, okay, I'm not alone. Oh, it's interesting. They're included now. And we didn't have to go into all these family stuff. So there are different ways of dealing with that. And I think the other question, how do we talk about intuition in business, especially for logical folks, that's maybe related to this.
Okay.
And also, again, there are different ways of doing it, and we'll also look into that in the training, because for everybody, it's a different way. I just say, trust the process. I know what I'm doing. Trust me, and then you will arrive where you want to arrive. So, but that's the way I do it. Also because I have a lot of experience. Other people dive into the science and say, okay, it's more for genetic fields, it's quantum mechanics. I find that very tricky, and what we call in Dutch, it's like slippery ice, because you will just fall. Because there is no real scientific proof of what's happening. And others they just say, okay, it's like a 5D mapping of your situation. So mapping is a word that really helps people to, okay, mapping. Yeah, and we do it with people and they stand in the room. Yeah, and then the magical part comes when the people in the room start saying things that they shouldn't know or couldn't know. So, but the mapping they like. And we say, okay, it's like a stakeholder analysis, but then not in our minds, but we use the room, and we see how they relate to each other. So you can also name it a little bit vaguely, more with business terms. So that might also work. But I like to just say, okay, this is some magical stuff and it really works. And are you in or are you out?
Okay, so
Yeah, and that's important to mention, because often it also says something about yourself. It says, because I see the world as a reflection of your inner world. So if people are really doubting and really questioning the constellation work, you really need to go inside what in yourself is still questioning and doubting this work. So that's also important.
okay. So it's basically your experience or intuition, or is there really a method or using which you are able to, oh, this needs a family constellation thing, or this needs purely business constellation thing?
What you mean in general, or what do you want? What is?
There's a client is coming to you with an issue, okay?
Mhm.
Of course, for business constellation. But as you mentioned now, certain things will definitely demands for a family constellation only, as that influences more. So what I'm asking is, based on your experience, you decide that, or intuitively you're guided, or is there really some method that tells you, oh, this calls for a family constellation, this calls for business constellation?
Yeah,
It's
I,
like that.
I I can see from the question if we go to the family or the business in general. Often
Okay.
when it's about leadership, when it's about choices, when it's about marketing is a little bit, well, 50-50. When it's about I have a conflict with team members, it's often about family. And when it's more about there's a conflict within a team, but I'm not the manager, but there's like two teams having a conflict, or how to put my products into the world, like what kind of social media channels can I use? That's most of the time it's more a business question.
Yes, I get it. And another thing, you mentioned about we need to, we are putting in elements related to the business. Okay. So, how much of business knowledge as a facilitator we need to do this work?
Yeah, it's a good question. You do need a little bit of business knowledge. So that's also something I will cover in the training. I will have some basics ideas about business. On the other hand, it's also good that you're very ignorant and don't know anything about business, because then you can ask stupid quote unquote questions, which will really help the business people to, okay, yeah, we thought this was very logical, but actually when you ask this question, it's not logical. So maybe there's an issue there. So, but you do need to know a little bit about, okay, functions. You need to know about HR, that there is an HR, that there is like a primary process, that there is sales and marketing. And so if you have worked in a corporation or worked for as a solopreneur, or you're a solopreneur yourself, that already helps. And it's good to learn some of the jargon of that world, to use words that they understand.
Okay, so in this training, will you be teaching these basics about this business also, or it's purely
Yeah,
the
it's
constellation?
not extensive, but we have some time to focus on that. So what are the business concepts that you need to know? Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And another question related to the same, this business concept. Of course, it varies with country to country, the norms and things like that. So,
Hmm.
how, as a facilitator, I mean, get to know about all these things? How is it impacting my work as a facilitator?
Yeah, I work a lot international, and of course there are cultural differences. That's for sure. But the layer we're working on is non-cultural. It's beyond culture. So these systemic rules or forces, the orders of love are the same everywhere, in families, but also in businesses. So in a way, when I deal with the people or when I work with a team, there are differences. But when you go into the constellation and go to these truths, these systemic truths, there's no difference between countries, which is very interesting. It's also very connecting. It's like, wow, amazing. We have this issue in the Netherlands and in India. It's the same, and in the United States. So we're actually all the same. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
for your questions. Yeah.
Thank you, Satyapriya. Since we are on it, Martijn, what's the difference in family, business, karmic, and systemic constellation?
Hmm. Yeah. Bert Hellinger started with constellation work back in the 80s, and it was family constellations. So it was all issues with personal issues, and he did a workshop where there was a question owner, and you had representatives, father, mother, ancestors, so on, so on. Since, well, that's almost 45 years ago. So since then, this work has been, and that's I really love. It's free, so people can use it wherever they want. So it has been evolving and evolving, and pretty soon after he started with families, they started Jan Jacob Stam, the Dutch guy, and Gunther Weber, also a German guy. They started applying it to businesses, and then they call it organizational constellation. But then others call it business constellations, where organizational is more for larger and business is maybe for smaller organizations. Um, and then some people said, okay, but I can also do career constellations about career. I can do conflict constellations about conflicts. I can do parenting constellations about how to be a good parent. I can do health constellations about what does this disease mean and what is the systemic cause of this disease. I see now that the Bert Hellinger Institute here in the Netherlands, is giving a workshop on ADHD constellations. So there are so many constellations, and the general term is systemic constellations. So in a way that it's related to the systemic work, because out of all these constellations that Bert Hellinger did, but also Jan Jacob Stam, Gunnar Weber, and some more, they extracted this systemic theory. We also dived into that much deeper. So it was not a theory and then a method. It was the method and then the theory. And that's the systemic theory. So all the constellations that are based on it, on that theory or work with that theory, they are systemic constellations. In NLP, they also use the floor markers with, like, when you have a timeline, or they use, and in other places they also use like the different spaces in the room, which gives different energy. But it's not systemic, because it's not it's not related to the three orders of love or the three systemic forces in organizations. So it's just using the different places in the room. So systemic constellations are really always with the systemic consciences and working with the three systemic forces. And then you have karmic constellations, which is about past lives, with maybe Akasha Chronicles, I don't know, chronicles. So there are many, many more different constellations. An interesting thing is that they all have the same principles, but at the same time they differ, and they require a different way of talking with your client, a different way of doing the constellation, a different way of embedding the constellation in a larger, well, consultancy or therapy for somebody, because constellations are not like, they're just a tool, quote unquote. If people listen to me, like other facilitators, no, it's not a tool. But yeah, it's, in a way, it's a tool. So I also don't say I offer family or business constellations. I offer business consultancy or business coaching, where people can let their business grow. And often I use a constellation, but often I also don't. So yeah, so this is it's a wide variety of constellation forms. Okay.
So it's more like a message which I've received. I have done family constellations with class therein, and I'm looking forward. I'm planning to take business constellation facilitation program with Martijn and Meima, but I want to understand how business constellations can add value to my business as a therapist, and how will the training benefit me as a therapist or a consultant?
Yeah, it's a good question. My first answer is, it's not about benefit or about how I can benefit from it. It's like, does your intuition tell you need to be here? So that's an important one. And second, of course, it's also about benefiting, but the beneficial can be in different ways. One way is that you get an extra tool and an extra, well, if you go from family to business constellations, you can also do more work with the businesses. Some of your clients maybe have a business or work in a business. So you open up a new client group that have more business related questions, and you can access that group. And they have more money. So that's also a good way but I wouldn't do it because of the money, because I've also seen people that, oh, I'm a therapist and now I can charge more, so I want to do business constellations. Again, it's about what is your company meant for and what are you meant for. But it does open a new world, new clients with more money most of the time. So that's how you can benefit. Another thing is that you also have your own business, and you can benefit by growing your business, making it more successful in many, many ways, not only money, but also fulfillment. Because we're going to work with your questions as well. We're going to do a lot of practicing. I'm going to do demos. So there will be a lot of opportunities to look at your own business system. So that's also how you can benefit. And there was another part of your question. It was how to benefit and
How will the training benefit me
yeah.
as a therapist or a consultant?
Yeah, and as a consultant, that's another thing. Maybe as a consultant, you have a method how you can analyze and do strategy with clients, and this helps you to really dive a layer deeper. And by doing that, it becomes more vulnerable and more, but also more connected. So you can really help teams to connect and really thrive. And the if you have this consultancy, how do I say, journey with your client, the adding constellations can help to speed things up because very quickly you get insight. Okay, we need to work on this, and then you can continue with the way you normally do it. But it's very quick way of seeing what are the threads I need to pull and what are the hidden dynamics that I need to work on. And constellations create a movement. So they, without even doing anything, something is set in motion, and it's very much easier to do some changes or to do some improvements in the company. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much. So, Martijn, we have two questions from Lohit in the chat, and I
Yeah.
have two more questions that I need to ask. But before that, I would just like to share something. We are starting our business constellation certification program on the 9th of July. It's a hybrid program. Martijn is going to be coming to India for for two of the modules, and if you have any questions related to the program, all the details are up on the website. If you want to talk to someone from Joining Hands related about the program, you want to understand what's going to happen in each of the modules, it is there. But if you want to get a better idea, we are going to drop a message in the Zoom chat. Most of you know Benaifer from the team, so she will be, reaching out to you in case, or you can reach out to her asking for any details related to Business Constellation Facilitator program. So yeah, before I take Lohit's questions in the chat, I have one last question, uh, which one of the community members have asked. How can business constellation benefit solopreneurs? And can you give an example of a constellation?
Yeah. For solopreneurs, there's this mix of family and business. So especially if you're a family constellator already, it's very good to also add this business constellation, because then you can do both and you can switch from one to the other. So for solopreneurs, it really helps to find out. So the issues I have in my business, the questions, do they relate to my business or to my family? Where do I need to look? Sometimes, when I started my business, I also had to look with the relationship with my father. I had to look at the relationship with my unborn twin, the relationship with my ancestors that I was loyal to. So there were a lot of family issues that I had to solve, but then I could really make my business thrive. So it really helps you, well, as a solopreneur, to make your business run smoothly. And if you work with solopreneurs, because I heard that in India there's a lot of solopreneurs, you can really help them with their business. And if you have a family constellation background, you can also work with the family. So that's a really powerful combination. And an example, well, I've given already quite some examples, I think. So is there one coming to mind? Yeah, it's an interesting, I just intuitively get one. It was this client of mine who wanted more clients, and she felt like she had very, like, these spiritual powers where she could help people, heal people. But she felt that she was holding back all the time. She was not putting her full energy there. So she already had made the shift from, okay, I need more clients, but am I really present and am I really open to these clients, or am I holding back in one way or the other? Well, she said, okay, I am. So let's have a look at that, I said. So, and then I'm not sure what I did, but it ended up that I said, okay, can you select? And we did it with tabletop figurines. can you select a representative for you in a past life where you use these powers to kill many, many people or to harm many, many people? So she had to breathe and she said, okay, yes. I said, can you also put a representative for all those victims? So we had like 20. That's a good thing on a tabletop constellation. You can have like 20 or 30 representatives. And she could really sense, she was even crying, all the pain that she had caused in that life. And I said, okay. So she had a representative for herself as well. Can you now put all representatives for all the people that you can heal with the same power in this life? And then she clicked and she saw, okay, so it's a mirror. In the past life, I killed or I harmed a lot of people, and now I can heal the people with the same power. I said, yes. And you choose where you use your powers for. Do you use them for the dark side or for the light side? And she said, no, I'm sure I'm doing it for the light side. So she really stood in this power and she said, okay, now I'm going to do it. And that's when she started getting more clients and really did some really great work. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Martijn. So
Yeah,
Lohitt has put two questions in the chat. I'll read out the questions. In your experience facilitating business constellations, how often do family dynamics or ancestral patterns emerge during sessions, even when the focus is on organizational or business issues?
good question. It really depends. If I work with solopreneurs, it's 70%, 60, 70. If I work with teams, it's 40%, 30%. If I work with CEOs or managers of larger corporations, it's 10, 20%. So no, that's not true. No, because there are sometimes, if it's leadership issues, even a CEO has his family which is causing. So I think there's also like 30%. But with solopreneurs, it's a lot family issues. Yeah, that's it.
So the next question from Lohit is, in family constellations, facilitators are often seen as guides or even healers who help uncover and resolve emotional or relational wounds within the system. In the context of business or organizational constellation, how is the role of the facilitator defined? Specifically, can the facilitator also be considered a healer in this setting? And if so, how does the idea of healing apply to systemic dynamics within organizations?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. One, I don't think a family constellator is a healer. The way I look at constellation work is that you are more like a vessel used and you are doing whatever the field shows you. So back in the 80s, Bert Hellinger was really intervening, saying you need to go here, you need to go there, now you need to bow, you need to do this, you need to do that. And the field is now more and more moving towards let it happen. Let's see what happens. And of course, you're doing your interventions. And of course, that has some healing aspects to it. But for me, the healing comes from the field and the constellation and not from me. But then again, it's healing work that you do. So that's, I want to have that clear. And in businesses, there's also a lot of healing. There's a lot of, opening the heart, making new connections, connecting to the larger whole, not only to the organization, but also to the soil or to the people or to the future people. It's always interesting to have a representative for the 7th generation, and which is not 7 back, but it's 7 generations after us. And if we do a strategy session and you add that 7th generation, see how everything that we decide, how it influences that generation. So by adding that, it gives, it's not per se healing. It's putting everything in a different dimension, in a different perspective. And that is healing, because then we will create a world where we all strive for the best, not for ourselves, but for the whole and for the future and for not only for me, but also for you. And that's what systemic constellations do. they really open up the field of possibilities and solutions that benefit everyone and the planet and the now and the future and the past also. So yes, it's healing. And for some companies and some clients, I wouldn't call it healing, but yeah, it is a different healing than with families, but it is healing. And some people say that with family constellations, the changes are made without you having to do something, but with business constellations, you get insights and you need to do actions. But I also see in business constellations that there is already emotion, something is freed, and things are much easier after the constellation to do. So there's absolutely healing there, yeah.
All right. I hope that answers your questions, Lohit. The next question is from Bhagwati. She's asking how much time does it often consume for one session?
If I do it one-on-one, so with the manager or CEO or non-solopreneur, it takes about an hour and a half. If I do it with a team, we need about 3 hours because then I do some preparation work, some explaining, then we do some constellation exercises that they can warm up. Then we do the constellation and then we talk about the constellation. So
Okay.
but
Next question.
this is crazy, right? So in 3 hours you get insights that normally
Yeah.
take like 5 months for research. So it's amazing what you can do in such a short time. Yeah.
Okay. Our next question is from Preeti. Preeti asks, does one have to be a family constellator to be a business constellator? To be able to enroll for the course of business constellation, does one have to be a family constellator? Yeah. So
No,
before you say anything, Martijn, Preeti, I would just like to say, Joining Hands have made the course in 4 modules in a way that even if you have not done family constellation, even if you have not taken training for family constellation, you can still enroll for business constellations. And the program is designed in a way wherein the first 2 days will be a basic understanding, a foundation like course for the whole course, wherein you will be told about family constellations in the basic thing which you need to know, and only then will the training for business constellations begin. So Martijn, you would like to add something to this?
No, it's true. So because I give a lot of people training that don't have family constellation background. And of course, if you have the family background, you already know about constellations, you know about the laws of the order of love, and you have experience. So it does help, but it is not necessary because I believe that you can do business constellations without being a family constellator. Of course, you have to find out what happens if the family system shows up, and if you feel comfortable with that, especially if you have some psychology background. I always say the principles in constellations are the same in family and business. You just need to know how to apply them and how to work with them. And you need to be able to hold space. So that's also an important thing. You need to be able to hold space for what comes up. And when you go to a business, it's different stuff that comes up than when you go to families. So a big part of not big part, but an important part of the training is also working on your holding space capacity. How can you hold space for what happens in a constellation, in a business constellation? Yeah. But yes, like you said, we have designed it in a way that you can come from zero and start, and then you it's quite come along.
So we have one more question from Bhagwati. What if someone is carrying past life patterns, as then it becomes personal life work coming from us as soul energy?
Say that again.
What if someone carries past life patterns, as then it becomes personal life work coming from us as soul energy?
I don't understand the question.
Bhagwati, by any chance, can you unmute yourself and ask the question yourself?
Hello Martijn, how are you?
Hi.
Yeah. My question was now, for example, personally, me as if I am doing working on my business and I want to go under a business constellation therapy. Here, it's related to my present life family, but the family life constellation is already done. What if that person is carrying because of its multiple births, okay, multiple soul energy, along with that, the current life energy, and it converts it into that pattern, which is not able to break, and he's getting affected by, in his business work, teamwork, or not able to execute, or whatever it is.
For me, it's a very specific question. It's like,
So here I'm not connected to my family. I am only as as a single soul, carrying multiple birth, multiple lifetimes, and that is affecting my present situation or my current situation in business.
and you're not connected with your family, you say,
Nah, it's my
but
own energy which is affecting my business because of my past life. So here, how can we deal, for example?
yeah, then you need to make a clear distinction. So past lives for me is, and it's interesting, it pops up quite often in my constellation work. So past lives is really separating the past life or the other life, I like to say, from now. So sometimes
Yeah,
it's even putting like a rope in between and then step over the rope to say, okay, I am, and you say your name, and I'm born in, and you say your date, and you're born in this country and on Earth. So it's
yeah,
really about owning this now and releasing something from the past.
yes. So do we really do this past life therapy in business constellation?
No. Oh, this is
No,
yes, but no, no. It's no,
no.
no.
So then how do we cut that? Because then if that soul carries any past life pattern and I know that
Well, the
this is
thing is,
coming.
yeah, if it pops for me, I didn't do a training in past life regression or in
Acha,
past
okay.
life
Okay.
constellation. So it just
Hmm.
pops up. And then because I know about like it's about systems want to be whole, but it's also like clear whose is who. So it's also it's like taking a burden from the family system. So
Okay.
I'm really flexible in the way I work, and that's also what I like to teach my students. Be
Hmm.
very creative and flexible. And if you know about, okay, yeah, to separate from my fate and my parents' fate, you can
Ha.
also separate your fate from your previous life fate. So
Previous life. Oh, okay, okay, okay. Understood.
yeah,
Yeah.
so we don't dive into it specifically, but
Hmm.
after the training, if you're flexible and you're creative, you can of course use it.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, I think that covers most of the questions. If anyone has any questions, you can please raise your hand. If you want to share something, you want to ask something, please. Yeah, Pooja.
Yeah, I was just asking. I got logged off by mistake. About the duration. So, it was the business constellation is about 1.5 hour, and otherwise you were saying something. I got logged off by mistake. So, if you could tell me that.
Yeah, if you work with a team, it takes more like 3 hours, like half a day.
Okay, what's
Yeah.
the difference like?
Well, if you work one-on-one, it's a very specific question for this person, and then you work with that and you do the constellation. If you work with a team, it's also like first you need to work with the team dynamics. So first there's also some explanation, then you do some exercises that they get into their bodies. Then you do the constellation, then they might want to reflect on the constellation. So there's because there are so many people, there's more input and more to work with.
The more people to work with.
Yeah, if you have a team of 10 people, there's 10 people where something happens. So it's
But what do you recommend? It's better to work with a team or one-on-one?
depends. So I say if like a manager comes to me and says I have an issue with the team and blah 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 blah, most of the time I say let's do first a constellation with you and representative of the team, and then we do a constellation with the team.
Okay. So then first it's you and one more member, and then maybe the team.
Say that again.
Hello?
Hi.
So it's first you and maybe one more member. Representative.
So I'd like to work with, it's always good to work with the highest level. So if you have an
Okay.
issue in an organization, you can only work with the issues that are below that level.
Okay.
So if I am a team leader and I want us to work on the strategy of the organization, that's not possible because you're not responsible for that. Then you need to work with the CEO or the management team. So first I like to work with the leader to see, especially if there's a lot of issues. If it's not many issues, then it's okay to work with the team directly. But otherwise, it's good to really explore with the team leader, with the constellation, what is the real issue? What do we need to look at? What do we need to be careful of? What kind of interventions would work and what would not work? So I would like to do like a pre-constellation to see what's happening.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Does anyone have any questions? If not, we can, I think, wrap up. In case if you do get questions later on, we have dropped our joining hands number in the chat. Martijn will be coming to India in July, and he will also be doing a few other webinars before that. So it will be live on our website, joininghands.in, very soon. If you have any feedback or any questions, feel free to contact us on the number given in the chat. And yeah, thank you so much, Martijn, for removing time and coming over here today.
Yeah, sure.
The session was supposed to be only 30 minutes to 40 minutes. I'm sorry I promised you that, but then it went on
Yes.
for 1 hour. But I hope that has helped everyone, answer their questions.
Yes.
So yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Martijn.
Thank you very much.